Joshua Hutton. There are roughly 910 deaths from COVID-19 in the United States every day. Everyone in this room, says M.R. Distarsons, a spatial science engineer at Johns Hopkins, from the journal Applied Geography, published in April of 2020. Everyone in this room's lives has been changed since COVID-19 hit back in December. The United States is spiraling out of control. First, I will talk about COVID-19 in the United States. Second, I will talk about social injustice in the United States. And lastly, I will talk about the 2020 presidential election and each candidate's take on healthcare. Now, let's talk about COVID-19 in the United States. There were roughly 115,000 deaths back in April, says M.R. Distarsons, a spatial science engineer at Johns Hopkins, from the journal Applied Geography, published in April of 2020. COVID-19 hit back in December, and it only took 3 months for all of us students to go home from school because of how bad the pandemic was. The pandemic was difficult for all of us, but we all have to push through it and wear masks so life can be easier for all of us. Now, let's talk about social injustice in the United States. There are 4 social injustices there's 4 injustices, says Lavally R., a professor at the Division of Occupational Science at the University of Carolina, published in April of 2020. The 4 injustices are social injustice, political injustice, healthcare injustice, and religion injustice. George Floyd was killed in the summer of 2020. His life started riots or protests all around the country, and his life meant something to a lot of people. Now, let's talk about the 2020 presidential election and each candidate's take on healthcare. In 2019, there were 26 million people without healthcare, says Jay Robner, a journalist at Kaiser Health News, retrieved in September of 2020 from the journal BMJ. Donald Trump is a Republican candidate, and he is against the ACA, which is the Affordable Care Act. And he believes that the ACA is bad for our country. Then, our Democratic candidate, Joe Biden, is for the ACA, the Affordable Care Act. And he believes and wants it to flourish if he wins the 2020 presidential election. First, I talked about COVID-19 in the United States. Second, I talked about social injustice in the United States. And lastly, I talked about the 2020 presidential election and each candidate's take on healthcare. The U.S. is spiraling out of control. During this class period, there will be 28 deaths from COVID-19 alone in the United States. Let that sink in.
306. Thank you.